Ridley Scott enters the arena once more after rather mixed reception of Napoleon in 2023, finally making the long-rumored sequel to his Roman historical epic, Gladiator. After 24 years, one may ask, did the original need a sequel? I know it's what I asked myself when it was announced. So with strength and honor, I pushed forward open-minded to find out if Gladiator 2 is a worthy successor. Hi, and welcome to Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we review films old and new, the ones that you don't like and the ones that you do. I'm your host, Jackson Hamm, and today we're reviewing Gladiator 2. This film is directed by Ridley Scott. It stars Paul Mescal as Hanno, Pedro Pascal as Marcus Acacius, Denzel Washington as Macrinus, Connie Nielsen as Lucilla, Joseph Quinn as Emperor Geta, and Fred Heschinger as Emperor Caracalla. Gonna start off with some non-spoiler thoughts here. If you have been wanting a good historical epic to see on the big screen, this film has got you covered. It has good action and drama, all set amidst the backdrop of Rome. Now, it has been pointed out that there are some historical inaccuracies in the film, and those should be noted, but I don't think it has to take away from the enjoyment of the film. Sometimes it may even add a little more enjoyment, such as the sharks in the flooded Colosseum. Now, something I gotta mention I think the film falters at is character development, specifically with our main character played by Paul Mescal. We don't get much time with him before he is thrust into the main plot of the film. On the flip side, Denzel Washington's Macrinus excels with the little knowledge we get of his backstory, and he's just so enjoyable to watch. This film is also packed full of plot, standing at 2 hours and 28 minutes. A lot of ground is covered, and I believe that is perhaps where you lose some characterization in Paul Mescal. Balancing plot and character is difficult while trying to maintain a digestible runtime, and this is a case where I think maybe 10 minutes added more could have helped the film. Spoilers ahead, do not cross here or you will be thrown into the Colosseum. Right off the bat, I gotta reveal who Paul Mescal is truly playing in this film. Lucius Verus Aurelius. Yes, that is right, son of Lucilla and Maximus? From the first film, we knew, by the way that they interacted, that Maximus and Lucilla had history, but by the time of that film, it was merely that. History. Here we get the reveal that Lucilla's original husband was not exactly a ladies' man, or into ladies, for that fact. So she took on lovers, and well, it seems Maximus did too good of a job. Now, this is a cool reveal if they hadn't have thrown it into the marketing of the film. I remember when this sequel was announced, I decided to see if it was a more recent idea to sequelize the original, or something that was getting pulled from development hell. It turns out that Scott had bandied about a sequel for years, with sources saying it would follow Lucius. So I had my suspicions going in, but I think it is rather lame to semi-reveal this twist in the marketing. Moving on, I want to go through the film's plot a little and talk about what worked for me and what didn't work for me. Opening text opens the film that sets the stage just as it did for the first one, telling us that 16 years after Maximus' death, the twin emperors, Geta and Caracalla, rule over Rome while their subjects suffer. Now, the opening fight of Numidia is awesome, and I love how it takes the opening of the first film and kind of flips it on its head. Where in the first film, the Roman victory, it feels triumphant. Here, it's more devastating, seeing as Lucius is living and fighting with the Numidians. Time to talk about Lucius living in Numidia. This is where my struggle with his character is focused, as we're very quickly introduced to him and his wife, and then she is very quickly dispatched to be used as motivation. In the first film, both Maximus' wife and son are killed without us knowing them, but we did get to know Maximus fairly well before this. We don't get this time spent with Lucius before he's propelled into the main plot, and I think his character suffers for it. After this opening battle of Numidia, the main plot of the film begins with Lucius being sold off as a slave and Marcus Acacius returning to Rome. I love that Marcus Acacius is this noble general of the Roman army that is tied down by the cruel and unjust nature of the emperors. It adds some nice depth to him, as we can see throughout his military campaigns. They're only in service to the emperors, as they're kinda dangling his wife, Lucilla, over his head. Lucius becoming a gladiator is also a very nice subversion of the first film, where Proximo serves as a wise master for Maximus in the art of being a gladiator. Macrinus is just this wealthy power monger who seeks to use his gladiators in sports betting to gain influence over others. Macrinus by all means sees his gladiators as pawns to be used in his game. This is where he employs Lucius and settles his endgame to take over all of Rome. And throughout the film, it's also Lucilla's plot to kind of take back Rome and help the Senate. This also weaves into the Lucius plot being the point of reconnection for mother and son. I think these two plots play very well off of each other and end up kind of coalescing in a very great story. In the first film, we had Commodus, and here we get what is essentially two Commodus, who managed to be far more petulant, power-consumed, and barbaric in Geta and Caracalla. These guys are real bad news as the emperors of Rome, taking pleasure in commanding violence upon others while not even trying to hide their hedonistic life. They make for some really great side villains and are entertaining throughout the film, which begs the question, if the emperors of Rome are the side villains in the film about Rome, who's the main villain? Throughout, we see him playing his game of chess and garnering more influence and power, wondering, what could he want? Macrinus is the overarching villain of this film, who seeks to throw Rome into chaos, seize power, destroy it, only to be rebuilt upon his ideals. Let me tell you, this character, Macrinus, is the most enjoyable person to watch in the whole movie. Denzel Washington plays this just sleazy, upper echelon, rich guy very well. With such a simple backstory, he's just chewing on the scenery and fitting right in. As the film reaches the third act, we begin to unveil the main point of this film, and that is restoring Rome to the dream spoken about by Marcus Aurelius in the first film. This is what Lucilla and Marcus Acacius have been fighting for and desire, and it's what they die for in this movie. I think the idea of finishing this storyline from the first is a brilliant one, as Maximus' death cannot change the entire direction Rome was headed, but someone like him could. Plus, being a historical epic helps, as throughout all of history, we can see the peaks and valleys of empires throughout. And changes, they don't happen in months, they're measured in years. Now, the ending of this film has things I like and dislike. Lucilla's death didn't feel like it had a moment to breathe, and there was no real moment of reflection upon it. The fight between Macrinus and Lucius felt great, as it very much felt like a comeuppance for Macrinus, who was an absolute bastard of a character throughout this film. Lucius standing between the Roman army and the Praetorians, ending the years of fighting under Marcus Aurelius, Commodus, Geta, and Caracalla, was a full circle moment and played very well, in my opinion. Then there is the ending scene of the film, which I think it's just kinda okay. It's very much like the ending of the first film, and just, it didn't affect me as much as the ending of the first film. They're trying to kind of replicate the first film's ending, but it cannot even hit as hard as the original. Moving on to overall likes of the film, the plot is a fair continuation of the first film while maintaining its own distinctness, which I think is great. Macrinus is a great villain, and Denzel Washington killed it again. The Colosseum battles are as good as the first film and manage to even be different, which is a feat in and of itself. You could easily go in on a sequel and just try to recapture or redo the battles from the first film, but these are their own distinct battles in the Colosseum and manage to be entertaining. And last but not least, it does not make the original film irrelevant or belittle it at all. If anything, it's just a nice sequel that you can choose to watch if you want more Gladiator, but the original film stands on its own as an epic piece of cinema, and this is a fairly nice continuation of it. Now let's talk about overall dislikes of the film. Lucius does not get a proper reintroduction during the opening of the film. As I said before, it just kind of opens, and here he is, here's our main character. He doesn't get reintroduced. 16 years have passed since the end of the first film, so we kind of need to see where he is now instead of just thrusting him into the main plot of the movie. It does not use the musical themes of the original film nearly enough, and this was something I feared going in. They couldn't get Hans Zimmer on this film, or didn't get Hans Zimmer, I don't know which, but his themes for the original film are so beautiful, and they are used in Gladiator 2 just very sparingly. I never would have thought that I would be asking for more of the themes from the original film. You know, sometimes in a legacy sequel or something like Gladiator 2, they just bonk you over the head constantly with, like, the original theme of the first movie, you know, trying to get those nostalgia fills. But here, I don't think they used it nearly enough. And last of my dislikes, the CGI in this film, it's not bad, but there are definitely moments where you know you're looking at CGI, and it may take you out of the film a little bit. It's just kind of unfortunate. The first film used a lot of practical effects, and this one is using a lot of CGI in the modern day, and there's definitely good CGI in this film, but there's also some that just isn't quite up to par, but it's not downright terrible. So, is Gladiator 2 a worthy successor in the end? Maybe. The original film for me is top tier historical epic cinema, and Gladiator 2 is just okay in my opinion. It is not a bad film by any means, it just lacks in some areas like character, where the first one succeeded so well. So my rating of Gladiator 2 is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know how you like the film, and give me your own rating if you want to. And on that note, we're at the end of this episode of Studio Cinema Saturday. We have plenty of other episodes of Studio Cinema Saturday covering such films as Terrifier 3 or Venom: The Last Dance. There's also our sister show, TV Tuesday, where we talk TV and tell you all about it, where we're covering such shows as Batman Caped Crusader or The Penguin. We also make films here at Studio 24 because that's our end game. Go figure, we like to talk about movies, we like to make movies too. Just last month, we did our Studio Halloween Horror Month, where we released 3 horror short films, the last of which being a 38-minute special fantasy horror film, The Ties That Bind. Now, what are you still doing on this video? Go check out our other content, and thanks for watching.